Welcome to the Hometown Legends podcast series. I am your host, Mary, along with my co host, Mello Williams. Today's special guest is head coach Edward Joyner Jr. of Hampton University men's basketball. Coach, thanks for joining us today on the Hometown Legends series podcast.
All right, I appreciate y'all having me.
For sure, Coach. We start the podcast off by asking the icebreaker question, and being that you was Hooper yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, what pregame rituals did you have prior to a game, if you had any?
Uh, Man, I haven't played ball in so long like that. Let me think. I don't think I had any. I think I was one of those guys who kind of felt disrespected by everybody we played, so I would sit back and try to get myself as angry as possible,
Mm.
so I can come out and play as hard as I possibly could. But just any type of ritual, I don't think I really had any. When I played.
Well, being that you're coaching, what do you see your kids start to do to get prepared for the games?
A lot of different things. Now, of course, all of them is music. All of them have different types of music, different things that they listen to. I think I'm old enough that we didn't have headsets and the little beats and all those types of things.
Mhm.
So they all can kind of individually get into their own thing by listening to those, and then they'll go out and warm up and do those types of things. But outside of that, I know, especially game time and even some practice time, we have a playlist of music and things that we do that we actually let them put together. And then we got one young man on our team that's actually a rapper. He calls himself. He think he can rap. I don't know. I don't know what classifies as being good or not, but he has some things that he put together that we play a lot. So I do know from a musical standpoint, a lot of the players do that.
Coach, being that you're of the age to where you saw basketball, you saw coaching, you saw how the game of basketball was taught versus how the game is played a lot of places now. What part of basketball that you learned that you try to that you do your part to help the old school way of playing basketball or the way that it was taught to you with fundamentals to try to keep that way of teaching the game of basketball going?
Uh, it's kind of really more on the defensive end than anything else. A lot of the game has changed. I mean, offensively, it's become more of a guards game. Where you play less ball with your bigs, a lot of spacing, a lot of movement. On the defensive end, they're definitely not allowed to be as physical as we were when we were coming up. But again, to try to keep the game moving along with today's pace, but try to blend some of our pace into it, we try to teach more physicality and more things on defense and how to play within those rules. Offensively, we do try to teach moving the ball more so, but nowadays the game has become a one-on-one game. So we do different from back then. We work a lot more on individual one-on-one ability and types of moves, and if not creating for yourself, creating for somebody else. But I think the best way for me to answer your question is on the defensive end and try to be as physical as we possibly can within the rules.
So prior to you coaching at becoming the head coach at Hampton, you were assisting with Johnson C. Smith, what, for 11 years?
You know what? Yeah, I didn't realize it was that long.
Was it 11
Yeah,
years?
you telling my age now. So see, that's why you shouldn't be doing it. But
How
yeah, I was there for 11 years.
you were there for 11 years and you were coaching alongside the assisting the women's as well, right?
Right. My little
Okay.
cousin Steve and then my uncle Steve was the head men's coach and athletic director at that
Okay.
time.
Did you, I mean, being that your dad coached, your uncle coached, you grew up around coaches, you played ball, did you ever see yourself becoming a head coach?
You know what? No, I didn't see myself coaching at all. Like most of us playing basketball back then, or even now, I saw myself as a professional somewhere. Somewhere,
Mhm.
if not in this country, or somewhere else. I think I got a unique opportunity coming out of college. I played in what was then called the Black College All Star Game, where they brought all the, I guess, top HBCU guys to
Mhm.
play in that. From there, I got an opportunity to go out to Boise, Idaho, I think it was, and then to Rockford Lightning. Those were both what was called then. It was the CBA. It was the Continental Basketball Association, but it's equivalent to what the G League is now. And when I went to Rockford, I came back. They invited me back to veteran camp, but it was a situation where because I wasn't backed by NBA ball club, and at that time I really didn't have an agent, I would be taking care of that myself when I went back the second time. And I had talked to my uncle about it, and we was in the gym one day, but it was about a 3 week lapse in between the time for vet camp and when they had the free agent and rookie camp. He had talked to me. He started talking to me about helping him coach his team, basically saying, what I think, I know you want to continue to play ball, but I think coaching will take you further than playing would. Now, of course, to me, that sounds like you telling me I stink. I can't play. I'm not going to make it. So,
Right.
I got upset at the time. I might have talked a little junk at the time, but during that 3 week period, I began to help him, begin to talk with the guys, work out with the guys, play with the guys. And most of them were guys I knew anyway because I had played with them the previous year. Then I kind of fell in love with it, and it kind of blossomed from there. And then the rest of it has been a blessing.
Speaking about your playing career, playing professional basketball as well, you started at Johnson Smith yourself as well, and led the school to conference championships, and was a defensive player of the year as well. Speak about what basketball done for you as a player that has helped you in life and as a coach.
I think the biggest thing it has taught me is discipline, and when I say discipline from the standpoint of how to learn and judge myself, and to learn and judge and be able to deal with other people, whether it be adults or the group of young men that you're dealing with. I was one of those guys who were able to see the game and actually and and be able to use as a coach from 2 or 3 different levels. And I'm not even talking about the professional level. I never really went on to play professional ball. I had that opportunity. I actually ended it to go ahead and start coaching. But at one point during my career, my father was the assistant, my uncle was the head coach. So I got to see it from that aspect, meaning that again, everything that was done that I did or was blessed to be able to do while I was on the court and play in college, I had to come 2 times harder than everybody else because I was always judged different because who was making decisions on who played, and who didn't play. At the beginning of my year, especially early on in my freshman year, I didn't play very much at all. So I got a chance to see and teach at I've learned to teach from the aspect of I can also work with the young man whose opportunities don't seem to be as plentiful as some of those other guys. I made one thing that we always teach to them, or I teach to them a lot, is when you got to turn 1 minute into two, you got to turn 2 minutes into four, you got to turn four into eight, you got to turn eight into a half, things like that, because I was one of those guys. And then later on in my career, I began to be one of those guys who basically was the decision makers, on the team. I was a starter. I was, considered to be one of the better players. So a lot of things were afforded to me different than the guys that weren't. So I think when I get a chance to teach and talk to my guys about the way I see the game and the way I think we should play the game, I get to see it. I've seen it from 3 different levels, and I think a lot of people, I don't know that many people have. And also, me being a defensive player of the year, and yeah, I enjoy playing defense, but that's because I was successful at it and got a player of the year trophy for it. I actually did it twice, but I got a player of the year trophy for it. At first, it was just a way for me to get on the basketball court. We were talented. We had 2 guys that averaged 22, 23 points a game. We had this, we had that, and what I figured out was they didn't have somebody to go down and shut that to be able to lock down the other guy's best player. If I was able to do that, I can make myself put myself in a situation where I had to be on the court, and made myself valuable. So I think I try to take those experiences and teach those to our guys from what I've learned from my coaching career.
Now, you mentioned that you had the opportunity to play a professional career. What encouraged you not to pursue a professional career and to get into coaching?
Um, when I think a lot of people don't understand about what they don't understand about coaches is that we're competitors too.
Mm-hmm.
And when I begin to coach and do those types of things, I think my part of during that 3 week period, I began coaching a 12 and under AAU team. They were called the Charlotte Stars,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I got and now they team united. They don't went on to do great things since then though. But when I got the opportunity to do that and seriously think about getting into coaching, I got the same competitive edge and the same competitive drive that I did when I was playing. And of course, I didn't have to do as much icing and all that stuff. I had more of a headache than a body ache, at the end of the night. But at the end of the day, I got that same competitive edge, and I enjoyed that. And again, I just continue to coach versus trying to seek out opportunities to play. Now, I was one of those guys who, if I was going to have that opportunity to continue playing, I was going to have to earn everything I did. And that was fine. But again, I enjoyed coaching from that aspect. And that's why I never went back to it.
Right.
You had the opportunity to coach women's basketball and men's basketball, and during your 11 years as an assistant coach, you developed a lot of players. What do you take passion about into developing players? That you took to want to develop players the way that you did.
You know what? I think, and I'm going to take probably what I think will be a different approach than you probably will hear most people say when you start talking about, development. And of course, early on in my career, and I mean, even coming up through now, the development of your game is very important. And if you don't have the skill set and ability to do certain things, you're not going to be able to play anyway. And we do take pride in that, and I do enjoy that. But I'm probably more proud of the things that I've been able to do with the young men that I've been able to coach, young men and women that I've been able to coach mentally, more than anything else. And it's almost like I tell a lot of kids, if you got I believe as a coach, I love dogs. I love kids with that dog mentality. I love kids they're almost stubborn, because that was me. You can't
Mm-hmm.
tell them they can't do something. You can't tell them they can't stop somebody. Probably my gift then and even now was my curse. The worst thing you could do is tell me when I couldn't shoot. So then I was going to go shoot us out the damn game, or I was going to win the game for us.
Right.
The worst thing to do is to tell me I couldn't stop a person. I was going to put everything into stopping that one person. So again, I had to learn how, as I grew older in playing and in coaching, how to turn that into a positive for me, and how to channel those things mentally. Because sometimes my uncle used to always say, you can see people, regular people can do enormous things if they put their mind to it, and then they also prepare themselves to be able to do it. And I felt like I was able to do that with myself. So I think throughout my coaching career, and I mean, there's been ups and downs, but again, I've been blessed enough to be a head coach. I'm going into my 15th season, so I did something right. I hope. But I think the biggest thing that I've done was been able to develop our players mentally to prepare themselves for what's coming in front of them, not only in basketball, but in life.
Coaching for 15 seasons, what has been, I guess, the biggest challenge that you've had to face during your whole coaching career?
That's probably gonna come. That's a great question. But that's probably gonna come one or twofold. One, I've spent my entire career at an HBCU.
Mhm.
I've been able to see firsthand what the traditional community thinks of us, expects of us, how they think we're going to act, how they think we should play, and that could be good or bad. So one of the biggest challenges is that I've had is that to make sure, because today's world is so integrated, everything is, you know, everybody, we all feel like everything is on equal ground today. No, it's not. I have to try to explain to these young men, especially the young black men, and that's predominantly who I coach, is that anything you do and anything we do, we have to be twice as good. So if we got a good haircut, it better be a damn good haircut when we walk out there. If we go out there and play hard, we better go play very hard. When we do certain, so again, that's been one of the biggest obstacles that I've run into, is that over time, because of the perception of society and the way things are today, and the things that are offered to young men now that weren't offered to us when I was coming up, and Lord knows my father and people before that, making them understand how important it is that we're going to take and one thing I tell them all the time is that we're going to take one test, and we all are going to take a test that everybody has to pass every single day in our life, and that's the eye test. Somebody's going to look at you, and somebody's going to make a perception of you and what they think about you just by the way that you look. So we got to make sure that we pass that test every day. And with the way society is today, it's getting harder and harder to explain to young men that you still have to earn and do, and also be able to present yourself in a certain way to be accepted, because they're going to find some kind of way to exclude us, not to include us. And I don't think a lot of the young men today come in understanding that. That's one thing. And then two, the meaning of teammanship, the meaning of loyalty. I think that's the next biggest obstacle that I've ran into coaching, because again, nowadays with the transfer portal, with all those things, and this just didn't start this year. It's kind of hit slowly but surely for the last 5 to 10 years. Is to make sure that these young men understand what it is to be together and to be one. Everything today is individualized. Now, I can't say that it's a bad thing, because you got kids that got NIL deals and they're making millions of dollars,
Right.
for what they do as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But as an individual, you're only as strong as the collective when you play a team sport. And those have become the biggest obstacles that I've seen in my 14-year career as being a head coach. And that's starting from day one.
Now, speaking of NIL deals, I know that college basketball has transitioned so much and just changed over time, and now people are able to get paid. Um, do you believe that players now having these NIL deals, that it is, in a sense, what am I trying to say here? I guess like encouraging them not to want to go to the next level or not want to play harder, or making them complacent with where they are and getting the money?
I I think I think you're gonna see a little bit of everything you just said. And again, and this is just my belief. I'm not saying that, or from what I saw this year, I'm not saying that this is what actually happened, but this is what I thought of it. I thought like, I'm gonna use North Carolina. I don't know this to be true, but I think it destroyed Carolina. For the sense of, I don't know who gets what NIL there, and I don't know if it's distributed equally.
Mm-hmm.
But from what you're told and what you would think and what you see, there was a hierarchy amongst that money that they got. If I'm a young man and I'm practicing hard every day and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and I'm representing the university and everybody in the right way, I probably wouldn't feel like another guy should get more than I get, because he get a different opportunity to play that I don't get.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that's not the way the world works. So in my opinion, that can destroy a locker room, and it has destroyed some locker rooms from what I've heard from other coaches. But then you could take Miami, which in my opinion is the flip side of that. They used the NIL deal to bring a bunch of kids together who had never really did some of the things that they had did before. And the only way that they were able to get them together that way is to offer these kids this money, offer these kids this and do this, or get the deals that they were able to get. But they
Right.
were able to do a masterful job of bringing them together and making sure that they understand the money don't matter. It's about us trying to win. And in my opinion, also making them understand, if y'all go win and get to that Final Four and you decide to come back, this money probably gonna double. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I
Yeah.
think it can work, both ways. And again, me being in the profession now, that's the first question that comes out of every kid's mouth or young man's mouth. And a lot of them don't understand that, even though you're hearing all this, the market for you and the market for everybody ain't the same. So the world ain't fair. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to begin to be able to learn that lesson also. But it's a new day and age, and NIL has changed all of that. And I think that's why you didn't see as any of the blue bloods in the Final Four versus the ones you saw, because
Right.
that money has been able to make this game become equal.
Speaking of NIL, the blue blood schools, the mid majors, HBCU schools, how can HBCU schools benefit with NIL and still being able to recruit? And as you know, Hampton made runs in the NCAA tournament, Howard as well. Jackson State before with Lindsey Hunter, now with TSU, Texas Southern. How can NIL benefit players that want to come to HBCUs?
Uh, and on this one, I'm gonna be honest. You may have HBCU people that may be upset, for me saying this, but this is where I can be as honest as I possibly can, because I'm living it, not because I'm making an assumption. If we're able to develop those types of resources and get us somewhere, maybe not even close to the Power Fives, but we got an even playing field amongst most mid majors or higher mid majors, it will develop a different interest for those athletes to come play for us and also be financially comfortable to do the things that they do to put us on the same stage from a resource standpoint, that they don't feel like they're coming here and they're sacrificing everything, if that answers your question. I do think a lot of times when they come to HBCUs, they feel like they have to sacrifice, way more than they did when they were at traditional schools. But they felt in most situations they feel like they have an opportunity to get on the court, and play more. And I think that in a lot of instances that is true, but NIL can help change that for us. But then we also have to make sure that we have the people in place who understand and who are willing to put forth those types of dollars, to help our universities do that. I think at those bigger schools, they have certain alumni and people and business people in certain place that are willing to give up those types of dollars so that those young men can make that money. Somebody else, because they want to see their school win. Plain and simple. That's the reason that they're doing it now. They'll reap some benefit from it in the end, like the guy from Miami said. They were talked bad about when they first gave out all that money, that 800,000 and the other 800,000. And he said, but now what he didn't realize was his business now. Every time they showed Miami doing the NCAA tournament, they talked about NIL. They talked about that company that gave that money. Now that was $1 billion worth of free publicity for his company, and now he's doubled, what he put into it. But we gotta make sure that we have the same people who are willing to play those games. Play the game with us. And I'm not gonna say put the money into that aspect, but enough to make those young men who put on their Instagrams and put on their Twitter, because now I do think the popular thing to do is when you get an HBCU offer, put it out there.
Right.
But you're not actually coming to the HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
You want the love, you want the likes, you
Mm-hmm.
want the. So now when you go to the influencer app, you can say you got 750,000 followers versus 500,000, which may help you make money. So
Right.
again, we got to make sure we got the people in place who are willing to help us put those dollars together so that we can even this playing field a little bit, more than we have before. And again, I'm not saying this to big up myself or anybody else. I've been blessed enough that in my 14 years, I've been to 8 or 9 postseasons. I've been to 3 NCAA tournaments. I've won a game in the tournament. We've had to overcome some insurmountable odds to be able to do that. And the joy of that lasts only to the end of that week once you lose.
Right.
It is a carryover for recruitment, but it's not for those particular athletes. Those particular athletes, if they want to come see the same things and feel the same way they feel when they go to those institutions, and NIL can help us bridge that gap really quick.
Mm-hmm. Previously, you mentioned how some of your players come talk to you. You're not only a coach, but you're also a counselor. For what is some advice that you would want to share with players that are looking to acquire NIL deals?
First thing, realize that you are your, and the one thing we do tell all our kids, we were fortunate enough to have a couple who had NIL deals, not necessarily university based, but through the influencer app and all those types of
Mm-hmm.
things and local businesses and all that. But the first thing that you have to realize is that you are your own brand, and when you become your own brand, you have to be able to represent yourself in a way that makes people want to put money into you. So what you do have to think about, and again, I love the fact that there's NILs. Sometimes I don't like the result of what happens with it, but
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the kids can profit off their name, image, and likeness, we've been profiting off it for years.
Right.
So why can't they? What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I'm for that. So I'm saying all that to say I try to make sure these young men understand is that I'm all for your freedom of expression. I want to have my hair a certain way. I want to do this. I want to wear my pants a certain way. I want to do this, do that. Understand when you start talking about NIL, you're representing not only yourself, your family, and your university. Bigger
Mm-hmm.
than that, bigger than any of that, you're representing that company that's
Right.
putting money into you. So,
Mm-hmm.
but if you want that, you need to start researching and doing the things of what it takes for people and the people who are getting those deals for one, but what it takes for you to be able to get that deal and people want to spend money on you. And I think that's what a lot of them may not understand, but that's what we try to preach to them. Some of these things about yourself you may have to clean up, not in a way that's popular, but you may have to straighten your hair out. You may have to do these things. You may have to, and so if you're after that, you got to dress the part. You got to dress for what you want, not for what you wish. So again, that's one of the things that we try to sit down and talk to them about. And the young men who've had the opportunity to get those deals, or anybody else. Just remember, you're representing not only the university, but somebody's company and somebody else's brand as well as yourself.
This is the Hometown Legends podcast series with your host, Miss Mary, and myself, Mello Williams. Today's special guest is Hampton's University's head coach, Mr. Ed Joyner. Mr. Head, Mr.
Yeah, get it right, man. Get it right. Don't
Ed
ask it. Come on,
Joyner.
baby.
I don't know if you can say coach, but that's what I was struggling with.
You know what though, man? It's Edward Joyner up there, but if you call me Edward walking down the street, you can ask Mary. I probably wouldn't turn around. When I graduated from high school, college, this and that, when we're fortunate enough to play on TV, they say Buck. So
yeah.
So
and
that's
Buck
fine
is
with
Buck.
me.
Everybody knows you as Buck.
That's it.
If
So
you say Edward Joyner, they're gonna be like,
who?
Big Buck. They're gonna say Big Buck. No.
Got you. Coach Buck, okay, you like you said, going into your 15th season at Hampton. You coached Hampton's 3 MEAC tournaments, tournament appearances, have 3 championships as well. You also entered the tournament as a 16 seed to face number 1 seed Duke. Would you speak about just the success you've had as a coach, getting 3 conference championships and playing against number 1 seed Duke?
Well, and you know what? I'm gonna give you I'm gonna expand on the number 1 seed piece, but again, I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to success we've had, especially during our time in the MEAC, but to have the opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament, that's more than just me. I've had some great people around me, to help me get these guys to be able to get to the point that they were. And again, we were able to have, some kids in the fold. I think the biggest difference of that is between those times and the times now, you had kids 2, 3, 4 years. You even got a junior college kid. If it's transfer, it's probably a freshman, something like that. But other than that, you're getting kids as freshmen and you're able to develop them to get them to that point. So that's probably one of the most gratifying things I can say as a coach, almost as a father, probably, when you see your son, your daughter graduate 6th grade, then middle school, then high school, college, and going to doing those types of things. That was the biggest satisfaction I got, from those championship years, because a lot of those guys, we brought in as freshmen, or we had at least 3 or 4 years or more. So they got a chance to actually see the fruits, of their labor. And before we start switching all these conferences, I don't think we had a freshman that entered our program that hadn't went to an NCAA tournament. So that, I was real proud of that, and the opportunities that we given them, and of course the opportunities that they afforded us. We were, again, my first one, and we did play Duke, and I think they were number 1 nation, number 1 in the nation at that time. We actually played them in Charlotte.
Yep.
Yeah, we actually.
I was there.
Yeah. That was for me. That was a different, because I'm a CIAA baby, and I don't know if you're familiar with the CIAA, but I know you are, Mary. But I don't know if you're familiar. I'm a CIAA baby, and coming up, I thought it was no bigger than the CIAA. I don't care where if it was the CIAA, until I walked on the court for the NCAA tournament. There's nothing in my coaching career that I can compare to say to that. I'm about 6 feet tall, but I felt 6'7" walking out there. When we went to that NCAA tournament. Yeah. And then again, when y'all see the coaches and the players sitting in front of those cameras for the interviews, man, it's probably 300 cameras. You see one camera, it's probably 300 cameras and people, and I mean it's amazing. Outside of just playing Duke though, and that was different. I don't know if you know, I played Kentucky when they were undefeated. In the first round of the NCAA tournament, when they had Booker and Cat and all them, the twins, and so I think my second NCAA tournament, we actually won the play-in game against Manhattan, which gave us our first NCAA tournament. Well, our second is the university, but my first NCAA tournament win. Then we went on to play Kentucky, who was undefeated, and probably the biggest team I've ever seen in my life. I wasn't nervous, but I was saying if we couldn't get out and run, we was gonna have a definite problem. But I was proud of those guys because we actually led the game for a little while.
Mhm.
then their size took over. And again, but to be able to have those experiences, not just for myself and the young men, but the university, to be able to do those things. And then I was blessed enough that my kids were at an age that they got, a chance to enjoy that with us. That year that we played Kentucky, I was when they that was the year they first started following a team around and following a coach around. And of course, I was the first one. So I
Mhm.
had my two sons with me the whole time, and I mean they cut a fool on TV the whole. So, but again, it's experiences like that made me believe and understand that it is bigger than just basketball.
Right. And it's good that you have your family with you, being able to share those experiences with you. And
Hmm.
speaking of, EJ is now playing basketball in high school. He has many offers, getting prepared for college. How is it hard for you to balance your coaching career and attending his games and being active in your family's life?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Uh, Ironically enough, this year was kind of different, and for us because we played games in three different states, and ironically, as high school was playing games in those same states at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, and none of the games were at the same. So I was able to keep up with them from there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to my wife, and I tell everybody she's the head of the household. You may think I make the decisions. I just say yeah after she kicked me in the back when ain't nobody else looking, and I know it's time for me to say yeah.
Uh-huh.
She's the person that keeps everything, afloat. Because again, the one thing I will say about being a coach is I'm not just a father of my own three. I'm a father of 15, 16 other kids. I'm a brother and to five or six other guys that work with me. And if y'all can picture this, my life is in 18-year-old hands. So at the end of the day, I'm on call 24 hours a day, whether I want to be or not. To be able to tend to not only my own family's needs, but their needs also. Because at the end of the day, that's what their parents sent them to me for, or
Right.
up under my care for. At the end of the day, you can love the university, but if you don't feel comfortable, with the coach and the people that are going to be taking your place with your young men, then you're not going to send them there anyway. So yeah, it is very challenging. But again, luckily, my wife and my family, as you said, it's a family affair for us anyway.
Right.
And I think you understand some of that. We've been through that. It is what it is. So it's not nothing that I have to explain. It's a known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As Miss Mary said, EJ, he's going through the recruiting process, things of that nature himself as well. What advice have you given him as far as how to look at his recruiting journey and just enjoying the process?
I think the biggest thing that I've tried to instill in him is, first of all, be confident in what you're doing. Continue to work at what you're doing. The second thing I always try to tell him is live your own life.
I think we lost him. Oh, there you
Hey, you hear
go.
me?
Okay,
Oh,
we
okay. I'm
heard
sorry.
you say live your own life.
Well, because one thing I will say for EJ, and I've heard other coaches say this about their sons. The recruitment process can actually be slower than normal, because a lot of universities are going to feel there is no need for me to recruit him because he's going to go play for his father anyway. Or if they don't feel like that their school is as big as yours or is done, they're not going to recruit. They may not recruit him. So for
Mm-hmm.
him, sometimes that can be frustrating. Uh, the other thing he has to realize is when those offers came, when for the fact that I'm a college coach and for other various reasons, people are gonna come at you different.
Right.
You got to make sure you prepare every night to walk
Mm-hmm.
on that court and lace your shoes up different than anybody else, or at least feel that way and attack the game that way. And then at the other time, at any other time of that, I try to make sure that he understands that, again, you making decisions and you're doing things for you. Don't worry about me. I'm gonna support you in whatever you do. And as long as I'm blessed to be a Division One basketball coach, you're probably the only kid on the court in some instances that may have a guaranteed Division One offer. So you got to be able to go play that, live your life. Don't worry about me, and I'm gonna support you in whatever you do. And that's what I've tried to, instill with him the most. Don't look over your shoulder, worry about me.
Would you speak about North Carolina, the VA area, that region of just basketball talent? Because we know like a lot of players, the top players in the country in the next few years and in the recent past has come from that VA North Carolina area, state and region. Would you speak about the talent level of that area of basketball, and what is it about that area that breeds a lot of basketball players?
You know what? And I'm gonna start with the VA area first. And of course, Carolina, we felt like we feel like we're no different than Indiana or some of them places who feel like they the where basketball started. We feel that way too.
Mm-hmm.
What shocked me about the VA area is more than just basketball, the amount of athletes that they have. I mean, you got it probably with basketball, it's double the number of football players, track, baseball. I mean, it's so many kids in this area that are athletically gifted, and basketball is a part of what they do. It's amazing to me. The tough part about the area is that like now North Carolina is becoming a hotbed for the prep schools, the fly by night type of schools, and all those types of things. Now you know they've always been in D.C., New York, Chicago. They're starting. A lot of the kids in this area are starting to migrate out to those areas. You know,
Right.
and attend the combines and all those types of places like that. But again, like I said, as times change and as we get older and the game begin to grow, this new level of kids in Virginia and North Carolina is amazing.
We're gonna switch gears to just college basketball as a whole. We just saw the women's basketball college national championship game, and the women's tournament as a whole put up, it was 9.9 million viewers that tuned in. And then we saw the men's national championship game with UConn defeating San Diego State. Would you speak about the women's game of basketball and how it's evolved, especially again with you having a hands-on approach coaching women's and men's basketball?
You know what I saw from the women's game. I mean, it was beautiful to me. To watch them compete and play the way that they played, it was unreal. I mean, and again, I think now they're beginning to get the recognition that they should, for what they do. I believe that, and again, I don't make those decisions, but I believe within the next 5 years, they're going to have their own TV deal. They're going to have their own, when I say that, on the same level to some sort as the men, because now, again, with what Angel Reese,
I'm gonna get on him. He keeps getting a phone call.
Yeah, let me just add, with LSU capturing their first national championship, defeating
uh,
Iowa.
can you see me? No, I'm back now.
Okay.
But with the things that Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, South Carolina team, all the things that they were doing, it has brought a renewed excitement to it. And when
Definitely.
I had the opportunity to coach women's basketball, and this is a personal feeling of mine, um, I've always felt that the young women wanted two things. One was that the same recognition and the same attention that the men wanted, that the men got.
Hmm.
They wanted to be treated at that same level because they, rightfully so, they worked as hard and they did the same things to prepare themselves, no different than the other. And I think the second thing that they actually look for from me as a coach, because I coach men and women, they wanted me to coach them the same way that I coach the men.
Hmm.
They wanted that. They wanted to be coached, and whatever I said or did or this and that, they wanted that same treatment. They wanted to feel equal, and they should have, and
Right.
they should want that. And again, by watching the women's tournament, and I don't know if y'all remember I think the last two NCAA tournaments, the women's teams had some complaints about the way they were treated at the tournament, how they were fed,
Hmm.
the weight rooms,
Hmm.
the
Yep.
hotels, to this. I guarantee after this year, it's not going to be the same. I mean, it's not going to be the same as what they've experienced before. I'm sure it got better, but now I think they've shown that they should be on the same equal stage as the men, and I'm with them on that.
So, what do you think needs to be done differently in order for them to, I guess, be on different platforms, get their own network? I mean, what do you think that the women could do differently just to propel themselves to a different level?
I don't think the women have to do anything else. I think they showed what they were capable of doing and that they can hold down their own crowd on
Hmm.
their own by what you saw this year. I think again, it's almost like when we talk about when we talk about what we need as African Americans, or what black coaches need, versus we don't need any more Jackie Robinsons. We need some more Branch Richeys who
Mhm.
gonna go out there and take a chance on us, who gonna go out there and stick their necks out for us. So I think now women, what I think, and they're probably doing, I'm not saying they're not, but now the NCAA has to go out and take the same approach to promoting the women's sports as they do the men. I think that's what they need now. And it may not equal up the first year or two, but I think at some point it will. But I don't think the young women need to do anything else. Over the years, and this year, it showed itself. It showed that they're there and they can handle their own platform, no doubt.
You spoke of Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, you know, um, being a competitor, and not even getting into the, specifically them, the double standards in America. I believe personally this can help, promote women's basketball, right? Taking that competitive rivalry that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese has, how can that help grow the game of women's basketball in the right way?
Well, first of all, there is a truth to whether it's positive or whether it's negative. Sometimes publicity is good. You got a lot of people who didn't like what Angel Reese did and this and that, didn't pay attention to what Caitlin Clark did.
Right.
But they didn't like but they tuned in, they're commenting, and they're gonna watch to see next time what happened. We
Mhm.
really don't care. Just make sure you watch. You know what I'm saying? Then
Right.
you had the people who were again, it's bad about the double standards. Again, I think I mentioned a little bit of that earlier, or it was put a different way when I said I work at a HBCU. There is that double standard. We
Mhm.
are looked at differently. People, I don't think referees cheat and are not fair, but sometimes the games are officiated differently if I'm playing Duke,
Mhm.
or if, and again, when you talk about Caitlin Clark did the exact same things that Angel Reese did. Angel Reese actually reacted to what she did.
Right.
So there is a double standard as to why people felt the way that they felt about her. And again, everybody can have their own opinion. I don't have a problem with that. What I will say to Angel Reese is talk your shit. Hey, if they want to, because again, we're competitors like they. You've
Mhm.
seen you've seen coaches on TV when they get too competitive, they'll walk across that half court towards each other.
Yeah.
We compete too. That's part of the game. That's part of the culture. That's part of adversity. That's what we try to teach our kids, and our parents try to teach us how to handle and deal with, even if it's I'm not taking no more. And if
Right.
that's what draws you to compete harder and play harder, hey man, go do it. Go do what you do. I loved watching it. I love seeing it. I hate the double standards again, but I'm one of those people that believe sometimes bad publicity is good publicity. You got
Mhm.
had when I go play a game, it's probably more people in the gym wanting to see me lose than they do wanting to see me win. I don't care as long as you pay the ticket and come watch me play.
Right.
So
I just hate the fact that they try to turn that whole thing into a race war. Like they really try to say that Angel Reese was that she's not a black queen, she's ghetto and all this stuff. And then versus like Caitlin Clark, she did the same exact thing. And the reaction was in response to what Caitlin did. But I watched Caitlin's interview and she said it's all about the competitiveness of the game, So
mm-hmm,
being the fact that she didn't look at it as, oh, she's being racist, she's coming at me negatively, she's taunting me and like whatever, she didn't
mm-hmm,
look at it like that. That wasn't her approach. And it's just so crazy how the world views a competitive sport.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what, that is what it is. I don't think that that's gonna change.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, you got to go out and you got to play the game. And the one thing that I did respect is the competitiveness and the way that they played the game. Now, what made me respect, what was the team they beat in the national? Who the Caitlin Clark with? Iowa.
Iowa. Hmm.
What made me respect Iowa even more, because I felt like they disrespected Don Staley now. When the girls would be out there ready to shoot and they just doing their hand like, go
Yeah.
ahead and shoot. That's disrespectful. Now we didn't change it into a racial thing.
Right.
Because that's what we do when we play. If you can't shoot,
Mhm.
I'm not coming near. Hey man, let him shoot that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We go, we're gonna talk junk.
Yeah.
That's what we do. But I felt like they disrespected them in the same way. But we looked at it different. We
Mhm.
looked at it as either you better make a change or an adjustment and put somebody out there can shoot, or you better prove her wrong. Again, if that was me and I was a young lady in South Carolina, they'd have talked more junk about me because they said, man, he kept shooting, he kept missing. So what? She dared me. I'm gonna knock it down. And don't. Or if I make that shot, you're gonna
Yeah.
hear about it too. Now but I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Mhm.
But again, just like I'm a flip it a little bit, and you can tell me whether you agree to disagree. Like they came to Caitlin Clark's defense and tried to
Mhm.
go at Angel Reese. It's incumbent on us to have. I mean, it's incumbent on us to have Angel Reese's back. Maybe
Right.
we need to go back at them. That's
Yeah,
the way I look at things.
I agree.
And that's why I was so proud of LeBron and some of those guys. They came and had her back, just like those people came to hers. And,
Mhm.
and to some point it will pass. And if I ever get a chance to meet Angel Reese, I'm gonna let her know, don't change. Don't change. Be who you are. That's what makes you who you are, makes you different, and you gonna profit off that. So go ahead and be yourself.
To Mary's point, as far as how Caitlin Clark handled it, and America started speaking for her,
Mm-hmm.
and her response, like I'm piggybacking off Mary's point, her response was a complete 180 of what people thought her response was going to be.
Right.
I believe she humbled a lot of people and said, stay in your place. Let me speak for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Let me speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a competitor. Like she said, I've done it before. Did she make a statement to people and say, you know what? We need to stop reading into things. We need to stop having these preconceived thoughts, even though a lot of prejudice behaviors and the way that people view things is a taught and learned behavior. Did she help America, you feel, come together somewhat with
I
the response?
I think if she didn't, then America's a sad place. I do believe that. I mean, again, after watching this tournament, I'm probably one of the biggest Caitlin Clark fans you're gonna find. Now, I mean, I was so happy that her response was equal to her game. She didn't have to say nothing. Her game spoke for herself. If she didn't want to, her game spoke for it. But then
Mhm.
again, when she made those comments, she made remarks that was bigger than the game of basketball. So obviously, those people, whoever made those remarks, in my opinion, they wasn't just talking about basketball. I don't think her answer was talking about just basketball. So she got a fan in me, and my daughter, whenever she come out, they call her the female Steph Curry. So if she have a pair of Currys or whatever, my daughter Layla will have a pair. Proud. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I am a
Okay.
big Caitlin Clark fan for her response to that because again, I thought she spoke to everyone, from a point bigger than just basketball. She used that as the platform to get off how she really felt. And a lot of people don't have the guts to do that, and she did it. And I was already a fan, but I became an even bigger fan after that.
Sure. This is the Hometown Legends podcast series. I'm your host, Mello, with my co host, Miss Mary. And today's special guest is Hampton University's head coach, Coach Buck. Uh, Coach, we have a few minutes left in this podcast, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here. I would like you to end this speaking about coaches and NCAA going forward. We're seeing a lot more black head coaches. Dawn Staley for women and other black head coaches out there. Shout out to Vivian Stringer that opened up the doors for black women to be head coaches. We just passed the Women's Month, National Women's Month, History Month of March.
Mhm.
This is the year of 50 years of Title IX. And black men having more opportunities to coach blue blood schools and even yourself in mid-major schools. Would you speak about how far college basketball has come, even though we have a long way to go as far as with blacks having the opportunities to lead blue blood schools and coaching in general?
And I'm gonna answer your question. I hope again in the same way I talked about Caitlin Clark. I hope this goes a little bit deeper than just college basketball, but it's again, now I think we're at a time where things are happening that the right people are being put in the right places for the right reasons. It doesn't have anything to do with your color, your skin, or your gender, or anything. I think Dawn Staley could coach a men's team just as good as she can coach a women's team to a championship. I think any man can help coach a women's team to, again, the one thing I am happy about and what I was able to see this year with all the hirings and things like that, and even the publicity that HBCUs and everybody else are starting to get. They're starting to put people and universities and places in the right perspective for the right reasons. At the end of the day, we're all here to educate our young kids or young men and women to help them become productive citizens in life. Again, I feel myself no different than a preacher, but my pulpit is in the gym. I'm no different than a professor or a doctor at the campus, except I take my test in front of 5,000 people, where some of y'all take a test with just a room full of students. So again, I'm proud of the fact that now it seems like they're looking to more people, no matter what color or gender, to lead other young people because of what they know, who they are, and understanding what they're capable of. Now, I am proud because of for people of color or blacks like myself and us, because the majority of some of these teams are us, and I think it's important for our young people to see us being successful and us being the people that can lead them, because that leads them to become to believe that they can become future leaders of their own. As I tell my guys all the time, the ball gonna stop bouncing for everybody, and when the odds come up, none of y'all are going pro. By the odds. Now, so if you're one of those not blessed enough to play basketball, you're gonna go professional at something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm proud of the fact that they're picking a lot of us to be able to spread that message to our kids, but to our young men and women, but not just of our color, of all, because of what we know and what they think we're capable of doing. Now, the sad thing about being a coach is 9 times out of 10, you're going to be judged off wins and losses, but not by your character and who you are. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I think I could say I'm a flip side of that in some instances, and hopefully my job will last forever. But I think I've been here for 14 years and been able to go into my 15th, not just because I can win ball games, but because of what we can instill in these young men.
Coach, Miss Mary, you have any last words?
I don't.
Man, tell Joe and everybody. I said, hey,
I sure will. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you interviewed him."
tell mama I said, hey.
I sure will. And tell Aunt Erin. Well, I can't call her Aunt Erin anymore.
Well, you already did it now, so.
But Aunt Erin, tell Aunt Erin, EJ, and everybody, Andrew and Layla, I said hello. And
I will, man. And Mello, I appreciate you too, brother.
Coach, we appreciate you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come here on the Hometowns Legends podcast so that we could recognize you for your many contributions, not to just the culture, and to basketball as well, sir. And continue blessings to you and your family and your team as well.
Thank you.
Most definitely.
All right.
This is another episode of the Hometown Legends podcast series. Today's special guest was Hampton University's head coach, Coach Buck. Miss Mary, how do you feel about today's episode?
oh, I enjoyed it so much. It's always a pleasure, especially whenever I see a face that I know.
For sure.
Yeah, no. It was great though having him on there. I mean, I've been able to witness him coach. I attended the Duke game he was speaking of. I attended one of the MEAC championships. So I've been there throughout his whole coaching journey. And even this past season, when he was speaking about going down they were in Charleston. We were actually in Charleston at the same time. So my dad's team was playing in the same tournament as his son. And it was just cool, being down there, being around family, and still being able to not only see my cousin play basketball, but see my uncle coach. So it's just been a joy. I love the game of basketball. This is my family. This is what we do all the time. So, bleed blue.
Why you said bleed blue, real quick before we get up out of here. You've been close to the game. You played yourself. You've been around some outstanding coaches every day in your life, pretty much. Mm-hmm. What is one thing that you have taken from the coaches that you've been around that you would give to a player?
Something that I've learned that I would take and give to a player is just to I would say probably just stay focused, stay grounded, and make sure that you study the game, because studying the game is very important to prospering on the court. And I've been witnessing some of my dad's players not watch film and not have a somebody that influenced their game and everything, and they don't really progress on the court versus those that are focused and are grounded and they watch film and they study the game, they prosper in life and flourish on the court. So that would be, I guess, what I would say I'd give some advice of.
And that is definitely great advice. $1 million worth of free game right there by Miss Mary Ashley, the main host who got it going here for US Elite in the Hometown Legends podcast series. Be sure to stay tuned to see who we have coming up next. You definitely don't want to miss what we have in store for the month of April and May. Stay tuned.